Hello and welcome to IT Chronicles. My name is Casanova. We're here in Las Vegas at the Gartner Data Center Conference. We're here with my co-host, Charlie Betz.
Carlos.
And David Chiu from a long time ago.
Yes.
We've known each other for quite a few years.
Good morning, gentlemen. Yeah. Yes, it's
so
been, what,
David Chiu, business,
wow.
Business technology specialist, financial services. But you've done quite a few different things from when we started in the service management space and configuration management. You're doing a lot of other stuff now. You know, you've come a long way.
Yes, my route has always been in service management, done all the ITIL processes, configuration management, of which you and I both did some work on. And more recently, my focus has been in IT operation analytics. Now, the shift towards that is simply because we have quite a number of data points coming from processes, machine data coming from servers, network devices, application database, all these data now. We're in the age of big data. So we have a lot of data, but then how do we make use of this data to make it, to make IT operations more effective in detecting events, in detecting or preventing events or outages from happening?
Bad events, we don't want.
Exactly. Right. So the intelligence is the intelligence in the algorithm to mine the data, to make use of the data, and to really remove a lot of prescriptive, rule-based type definition that we put in monitoring tools, or even define the monitoring tools, which sometimes we don't always do well, right? So algorithmically, how do we use the data to prevent issues from happening? That's where my focus has been.
Right. Great. I mean, can we dig a little deeper? I mean, what are some examples of issues and risks that you think we can understand or perhaps prevent through data mining and data analytics?
Well, one of the challenges I think for most organizations have is whether you have instrumented the monitoring capability to detect something from going wrong. Mm-hmm. And usually you have to scrape the log, or you use monitoring tools that gives you various metrics, and then based on that you have set threshold, and based on that whether you set it right or wrong, it's a hit and miss, right? And usually what we have are point monitoring tools looking at network, looking at databases, servers, in an application. But then holistically, there's an absence of something to look at the entire ecosystem of that application, right? And that requires a lot more technology and capability to really correlate all the metrics, all the data, unstructured data, semi-structured data, and structured data to understand what's going on in terms of the behavior of the system, whether the system is behaving normally, whether it's about to misbehave, and of course, when you have an outage,
you already know.
You already know, right? Yeah. So you want to be ahead of the curve in knowing what's happening based on the behavior of the system. Right. And I always, sorry.
Well, no, I was saying. I mean, I think we've touched on this even in different lights, through config and over the years in different areas. It's those patterns and trends that they're there historically. They're there, and what it sounds like now. You're trying to take that next level from an analytical perspective. Is the pattern and trend is there? How do we capture that? And then detect that we're on this trend, that the last 4 times we've been on this trend, it didn't end well.
That's right.
So, so it sounds like the technology is getting to the point now where you can start doing a lot more of
that. Oh, for sure. I've seen, I've been looking at this space for quite a number of years, and just more recently, there are more and more vendors who are using algorithms to mine all the data and to provide some level of intelligence in terms of the behavior of the system. And there are a handful of vendors in this conference this week that who are able to, or attempted to do this.
Well, they're saying that they're.
I mean, the proof is in the pudding, because a number of vendors have tried to do it in different levels and different methods. But the more cool vendors, as Gartner call it, they're coming with some very, very exciting capabilities in their tool sets to do this. Right. And a big part of it is the movement towards machine learning, as opposed to a rule-based type definition. And that's, I think, would be a leap or transformational in terms of providing those new capability to us as an end user.
Sure. Okay. One way I've thought about the problem over the years, and it's certainly not original to me, is looking at the events on a machine-to-machine basis and on a machine-to-human basis, and also on a human-to-human basis. Now, that's less well understood, but in fact, when we look at project plans and tickets and other forms of documentation, that's essentially human-to-human conversation. Even if we were able to someday perhaps transcribe conference bridges automatically, like for a major incident, and record and transcribe the conference bridge, and then run the analytics on that, what patterns might we see at that level?
Right. Okay, well, it's a good point, because I believe a big part of the untapped data sources for incident tickets, for example, is not in the categorizations, but in the text that people type, the free-form text that people type.
Absolutely.
Now, we all know that when you typically have an incident, you have to classify it. Well, depending how complex your taxonomy is, different people will classify the same problem differently. So you have variations in classification. That's issue number one. The second thing is, if your product tree is too large, in some organizations I've seen thousands, then again, what do you pick for that particular problem? Right. So that's the second. The third one is if it's too high level. Like, for example, I have an issue with email, but then what is it? Right.
Or collaboration.
Right. Or collaboration, collaboration software, whatever it is, right? Depending. So we're at the mercy of that categorization tree.
Which may or may not have been wrong.
Right.
So once you're there, you would have a wrong input, everything else.
Right. So, but to be able to mine the text that people type, that's a whole new different ballgame. Right. So one of the projects I've embarked on is to mine the unstructured text in the notes of the incident ticket, and look at, and forgetting about the categorization, look at the clusters of text coming up these tickets to determine what is the trend based on tens of hundreds of thousands of tickets. What are the different clusters of issues? People will have a very similar way of describing issues. They tend to cluster around a few key words or similar words when they describe a problem or similar problem. So the ability to mine the text in some intelligent way is one of my projects in terms of text mining and incident mining, I should say, trending.
Right. And I would think, right, from a trending perspective, and to your point with the machine to machine or person to machine and that sort of thing, each one of those may have slightly different characteristics. They're going to have different patterns that they might exhibit that you have to be able to, you need to understand. If it was a machine-to-machine communication, it's going to have a certain pattern and characteristic versus a person-to-person. And they won't necessarily look the same, but they'll end up telling you the same story. So I would think that that throws a whole nother wrench into trying to figure out what it means.
Well, for sure, if you talk about machine-to-machine, there are much more, there are semi-structure. There's actually patterns to it. That's why a lot of companies are looking at log analytics now with software of Elastic, Splunk, and various other type to look at the semi-structure and to mine the patterns within the logs, which are better than just human being typing. So there's more, it's an easier, relatively speaking, easy way to mine those logs than it is to mine pure unstructured text from human beings.
Right. So where do you see us going? I mean, so we started in one area. You're moving forward. So where do you see this going?
Well, I see the IT operations analytics to be an exciting area because we have, like I said, a lot of data. Now it's a matter of having the technology and the capabilities to mine the data so that we remove some of the hardcore rule-based definition. So it's an exciting area for me, and I'm sure the industry is moving that way with the capabilities of big data and so forth. Right. So
because data is only going to get less, right? It's not going to get bigger.
Less. I think it's going to be, as somebody said, it's going to be in the triple, quadruple.
It's crazy.
More.
It's crazy. Well, David, thank you so much. I mean, great to see you here. It's been a while since we've
pleasure
seen
seeing you again.
Thank you so much.
Great meeting you, David.
Thank you, David.